Shalom and welcome. My name is Norman Willis, and I'm with Nazarene Israel. And my guest here today is Sister Becca Biderman, and she's in the land of Israel, and she is a witness to the barley and in the land of Israel, and also witness to the new moons. And what I thought we would do today is one of the things that I do as the apostle or in the priesthood for Nazarene Israel is what we try to do. My job, as I understand it, is that I need to qualify the witnesses to the Aviv barley, and I also need to qualify the witnesses to the new moon so that we can know when do we start the new year? When do we declare the new year for our people? So it's a difficult situation every year. Every year there's a big discussion and a big to-do and a big row. But one of the things that's been such a blessing is that Sister Biderman Becca she's really been very helpful to us. And she has helped us in many, she's communicative, she'll talk with us, she answered questions. To us, it seems like well, perhaps I should explain. So we know of 5 witnesses to the barley in the land of Israel. One, he doesn't declare only on he's a very nice man, but he will declare on anything, wheat, oats, barley, doesn't matter. So we can't use that. There's 4 other remaining groups that will declare on the barley alone. And it's a complex, difficult situation. Even those of us who study the barley, we still have to uh, we have to study into it to understand how it goes. And some of the groups object vehemently even to being mentioned. But there's one group that is a Karaite group. She says that she's not a representative of the Karaites, so we don't like to mention names. But in this case, she doesn't want us to say she's a representative of the Karaites. So her name is Devorah Gordon. She's of Devorah's date tree. And we'll talk more about her witness, because what we're trying to do in this video is to qualify Becca's witness, and there's been some controversy going on. So first we want to qualify Becca's witness with regard to the barley field, and then from there we're going to come back to Devorah Gordon and Devorah's date tree. Then there are 2 Messianic brothers who also inspect the land, and I should mention that Devorah has a different definition of Aviv than we do. To us, her definition seems far too advanced. Her definition of Aviv to me, it seems like it's within a day or 2 short of modern combine ripe, which to us is it's basically brown, golden brown barley. And our understanding is that Aviv barley, at least according to Strong's, is tender, young, and green. So the 2 other Messianic groups, the 2 Bryans, they also have a definition of Aviv that is, again, within a day or 2 short of modern combine ripe. It's not tender, young, or green. Becca, we were looking for Aviv barley as being something that is tender, young, and green. So originally we were looking at that as the soft dough stage, because soft dough is parchable. Becca helped us to understand that in order to fulfill Leviticus 2, verses 14 and 15, not only does it need to be parchable, but it also needs to be grindable into flour. So in order to grind it into flour, it needs to be at least the medium dough stage. So, and Becca can talk, she talks a lot about this on her Facebook page. In any event, what we have found through our working together with Becca is that to us, so we have the job, well, in qualifying the year, ideally we want at least 2, preferably 3 or more witnesses that are all qualified. They all have the same definitions, this kind of a thing. The reason the barley is so confusing every year, at least in my understanding, is that we have 4 different groups with 3 different definitions. And then the 2 other groups have a definition that we can't understand, and we write them questions, we send them emails, ask them questions, and they don't correspond. They don't talk with us. And but Becca will correspond with us. She helps us, and we agree with her that Aviv barley is medium dough because it's still soft, tender, young, green, immature barley. However, you can parch it, you can grind it into flour, and it's viable as seed. And we know that when Yeshua's sacrifice took place, that there were others of the dead that were raised. We also know that there was the infilling of the Spirit in Acts chapter 2 that took place 50 days, 50 days after he was raised, and this kind of a thing. So this is why we are going with, we can't find 2 or 3 witnesses that anyway, so we're proceeding with Becca Biderman as a witness. And so I thought what we would do, there were some objections by Devorah's date tree to one of our earlier publications, so we don't want to make anyone stumble. So we thought we would take that down, and then we would re-record. Becca's had a long day. She's out, she and her partner are inspecting the barley right now, but she's taking the time to be with us. So Becca, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to be with us and to help us understand the witness of that particular field. Just to give some background and information on the field, and I suppose I should share screen at this point, and then we'll do this, and then we'll turn it over, and then I'll let you tell me about the field as soon as that bar goes away. So we'll come here to, now this is Becca Biderman lives near, she lives in the land of Israel. She lives near the Kinneret, or the Sea of Galilee, in a town called Poriya Illit, which is upper Poriya. And then where did it go? So there is a, apparently it jumped. Okay, so there is a near, just south of Poriya.
You're in it right now.
Just south of Poriya Illit, there is a traffic circle with the gas station. And then there's a field just to the south of that gas station. Now, some very interesting things have gone on. We can see Yahweh's hand all over. He's doing some very interesting things this year. So we thank him and we praise him for the trials that are going on. But if we can, this is a screenshot that I took, and Becca perhaps she can give. Anyway, some very interesting things have gone on in that field. On February the 6th, now the new moon of the month was seen on February the 13th. So a week prior to that, on February the 6th, Becca was in this particular field, and she found patches of barley that, in her view, qualified as soft dough or above. So it qualified as Aviv barley. So it's still, we can see it's still tender, young and green, but it's starting to turn golden, which indicates to us that there's development in the head. And then when Becca comes and she does a much closer inspection on the grain head, there's substance there. There's something to parch. It's substantial. There's something to parch. And then there's, you can grind it into flour, and you can also, it's viable as seed. Yes. So Becca, if you could let me, and then I don't know if you want me to, whatever you'd like to do, but if you could, and I can share control of, I can give you control of the mouse or whatever, but if you could share with us your inspection results of that field. In particular, let me tell you what I want, if you could focus on. So in the video that we took down, and we can also hit this on Google Maps if you'd prefer, but this is a picture of that field.
No, this is great. This is great.
Okay. And so what happened is that originally, and correct me if this is wrong, originally the field was like this, and then
one piece. That's right.
And what happened, I can just see Yahweh's hand all over this. So there was an initially ripe area here, and there was later a fence that went up in the middle of the field, cutting the field into 3 parts.
That's right.
So this area was bulldozed. So the ripe barley, or the ready barley, the Aviv barley that was there, was taken out. There's also some Aviv barley that's inside the fence now, but there was another search team, and then there was a big section down here that was also more advanced. And then plus they were, and I don't know, I'm sorry, I just put little green rectangles anywhere, and they're probably, the locations are way off, but what I was trying to indicate is there was another is it okay to mention her name? I don't even know. She's very upset, and but there was another search team that came in Devorah's date tree, and we don't understand what they did, but they searched this northern area. She doesn't want anyone using or reproducing or taking screenshots or anything of her video report, which to me makes it extremely difficult. You know, I'm trying to qualify witnesses here. I'm trying to qualify, do we have Aviv Barley? Do we not have Aviv Barley? For my people, for the people who follow Nazarene Israel, I need to declare, is this the first of the year or is this not the first of the year? I'm getting good information. I'm getting help from Becca Biderman. I'm not getting any communication, or at least not friendly communication, from Devorah's date tree. So I guess my question is, what we're trying to do, so I've got a witness from Becca Biderman saying we do have, or we did have, and then there's been a lot of action here. So this section of the field was bulldozed, and then now there's a gentleman who lives in the area. Apparently this is his field, and so
a man from Nazareth, he just purchased it. A man from Nazareth.
A man from Nazareth, a very nice man. He, I guess, is bulldozing the field today, allegedly.
Allegedly, he was supposed to bulldoze it. And so we actually have another witness to the progression of this field, because Cindy was in there with me yesterday morning, and we took out 30 liters of ready barley heads with a sickle. And I've got the cut on my finger to prove it was with a sickle.
So go ahead.
No, that's it. That's just it. I mean, it's actually not any longer just my witness.
Right.
Cindy was also in there too, helping me harvest the barley yesterday.
So on Becca's Facebook page, let's go to here, and then in search of his ancient and true path from cover to cover. So this is Becca. So Becca's in search of his ancient and true path from cover to cover. And then she's got various videos, and of course it's all arranged chronologically. She's got 2 videos. This one is 8 minutes. And then, but if you can just sort of, we'll maximize this.
So I decided I would take,
okay, so I'm gonna, so this is barley that you pulled out of that field.
Cindy and I, yes.
Cindy, okay, and then you mentioned something about how much of the field is in this condition, or was?
Cindy and I did discuss this, and I wanted her opinion, and she said, like I did, a full 1/3 of that field when we were there was in this condition. A full 1/3.
Okay, so in your opinion, there would be no question that there's a wave?
Not at all. No, not at all. And this is, remember that the one that I had made the original video on that said enough for an omer, when I was finally convinced it would be, you know, good. We lost all that barley because the bulldozer did come in there and plow that out. He made a parking lot in that specific area. So we lost all that barley. And now, again, we're looking at still, I don't know if it's still there, but the day we were there yesterday gathering it, he said he was going to be bulldozing it because he feels like, it's a long story. He bought that property for a family, like park. They're going to plant trees there, and he's already set up a picnic area. And he feels like the barley is going to grow out the nutrition from the earth that the trees need. And he said it has to come out, and he's going to use the bulldozer to raise it. So that's the story. But when we were in there yesterday, a full 1/3 of that was just like you're looking at in this tub right here.
So yeah, so many wave sheaves, many omers of barley. Okay, and this was a 30-quart tub, was it?
30 liter.
30 liter. Okay, and then in your studies, how much is an omer? How big is an omer?
Oh, what is it? Is it 2 liters of flour only, something like this? It's not
Okay.
very much. From what I roasted that first
Yes.
time I brought, okay, what I brought home was like maybe 1/8 of what's there, and it yielded a full cup and a half.
Okay. Okay.
So the barley in this field, you know, you have to evaluate the field on a yearly basis.
Right.
Looking at Raim here where we're at, some of the grains are awfully puny and they would not yield much flour. Even
Okay.
though
Good
they're
point.
ready, they wouldn't yield much flour. But in this particular field, they were fat, beautiful, beautiful grains of barley. And so just a little makes a whole lot.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay, I guess our point here is that so Becca on her Facebook page, she has a chronologically ordered listing of her investigations of the land of Israel. Everything's open, appears to be honest, appears to be. I mean, she'll communicate with us about it. So this is why, if anyone's wondering, this is why we're going with Becca Biderman's witness. Is we've got everything that we need to see, and we can ask questions, and we have there's open and what appears to be honest communication, and we're not able to get that from the other 3 groups. So that's a, what do you want to call it, a no-brainer? That's a hands down kind of an indication. And then, oops, okay, there we go. And then, so there's more. Yeah,
There's another one that just shows how very brittle. The second one, I just kind of show how it is
a few minutes
the
ago.
condition of the grains themselves.
Okay. Well, and this is important because I think a lot of people might be wondering, because we've got these 3 other groups that are saying that the barley needs to be golden brown, like you've got to have a field ready for the combine, or a field ready for, maybe they don't say that, but they're looking for a very, I guess hold on one second, if I can pull it up. So you've got okay, come here to the barley in 2017. You were saying that this is 2017. This is the year you trained with one of the other groups, and this was the
Yes.
field that they were calling Aviv. So to me,
Yes,
when I look at that, I see nothing tender, nothing green, nothing immature. I see hard, I see brown, I see brittle, or golden.
Yes.
I see brittle.
Yes.
That's right for the combine, but you were talking about sickle harvesting. You were saying that in ancient times, that doesn't work because you're going to gather up your sheaf and you're going to hit it with the sickle. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, you just grab a handful. Like we had talked about this on the video we took down. We've had that few days of heavy rain that brought a fresh snow to Jerusalem. And higher elevations. All snow was above 750 meters or 2,400 feet. We had no snow in our area, but we had heavy rains and winds, and it's not uncommon this late in the season that when there is such meat and weight in the heads, and then the heavy rains and the wind come, it mashes them. So
Yeah.
I could just reach in with a hook of the sickle, pick it up off the ground, bring it to my hand, and then you rip it. You hold it by the head or the base of the heads, you know, and you've got to rip it with that sickle. It's a jerking motion. It's not a tender motion.
Right.
So, you know, it's, yeah, you've got to be able to do that with the grains not shedding.
So, but I think you were, to tie that in, so we were talking about where did we go here? We're talking about minimize this and then come back to where did it go? Did I minimize yes. So you were talking about the condition of the barley. And I believe when we were watching this video, you were emphasizing that you can't have the barley too ripe, or else even when you gather the heads together, they're going to be brittle and fall out. Can you talk about that?
Right. If you grab them with your hand and they're brittle, the heads are going to break in your hand.
Yes.
Okay, just that act of grasping them.
Yes.
So then maybe you've got them cut, but when you put them down, your heads are going to be in at least 2 pieces, maybe more. And you're even going to maybe have some, like, you see me twirling my fingers here, how easily this shatters. You're probably even going to have some shedding at this stage, just that little pinch, and look what happens.
Even though it's still somewhat green, when you're gathering the heads together to get ready to hit, and there's your sickle, when you're gathering the heads together to get ready to hit them with your sickle, when it's at this stage, you're still going to be losing some of your barley. So
this barley that I've targeted was more ripe than I would have chose to harvest.
okay.
I took what I took from the field was the ripest barley. The reason I took that is because at wave sheaf, this is going to be our barley for unleavened bread after wave sheaf date.
Okay.
So basically, yeah. So that's what I was doing. The purpose in taking it was more for my household use, and because there's some beautiful barley in that field, and that field's not going to be there next year. So
Right.
I'm going to preserve some for planting.
So all of this barley should be viable. Everything that's in that bucket?
Everything beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just mentioning, if that's what anyone wonders, what we're calling Aviv barley, that's what we call Aviv barley, because that's soft dough or above. And then some of the other groups are looking at everything's got to be golden brown, maybe with a little tinge of green, but basically ready for the combine rather than the sickle. Okay. So
if you go to the top of my page.
Okay.
Very top of my page.
Mm-hmm.
The last year I was with the Messianic group. On the left-hand side, that is their Aviv barley.
Oh, that's their Aviv barley. Okay, and then tell me what stage that's in, and then what.
That would be indivisible by the fingernail. Or okay. You know what? At this point, it may not have been indivisible. It was pretty much on its way. I do remember that. But we were also inspecting at the end of a month, so we still had time before wave sheaf day. But this was very, very advanced. Very advanced.
Okay. So around hard dough or?
Hard dough. Hard dough. I would say, okay. Yeah.
Very hard or just hard?
Very well. You could still divide it by the fingernail, but it was. I remember it being leathery.
Okay. Okay.
So you're at the end of hard dough.
At the end of hard dough. Okay.
Yeah. For me, when it's leathery like that and it's resistant to cut, there's nothing left but, indivisible. So it's at the end of that hard dough.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering, is there anything else on your page that you want to talk about before we go to that?
No, I'm fine with that. No, that's pretty much it.
Okay. I appreciate so this is, okay, we already talked about this. And what should we do now with regards to the conflicting witness that we get? So there was another barley team. Is it safe? Well, we already mentioned them. So Devorah's date tree came in, and then so now I know what I wanted to mention. So I'm going to close this. But in this field here, okay, and then where in this? Let me see if I can do this. Can I put these pictures side by side? I'm not sure if there's room for them both, but let me see if I can get them side by side. And then, there we go. Good. So where in this field, I guess this patch right here, where in this field was that located?
It would be about, I don't know if you're seeing my cursor or not, but about where that gas emblem is, if you came down into the fenced off area.
This gas emblem, and then come down.
Come straight down, and yeah, you're a little too far east. You're a little too far east, about right in there.
About right in there. Okay, so that was fenced off. So the other barley team was not able to inspect that, but should have been able to see that through the fence?
Oh, it's a chain link fence. Yeah, it's completely transparent.
Okay. And then the gas station is on a bluff?
Yeah, you can see if you look at your picture back over here, that this is an
Yes.
elevation. I'm shooting uphill. You can see the incline.
Yes.
So looking across the field from that location, you're kind of looking down and out over the field.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch. So you're saying when you're standing at the gas station, you're
No,
looking
I'm saying
down?
when you're standing on the far
Oh,
north end
I
of the
see.
field,
When
that's the
you're on the,
highest end of the field. So you're looking down and down across out over the field because it's from there it's all lower. And it's
okay,
not like, there's no houses, there's no structures, there's
right.
nothing. It's just a straight view.
No, I can see. So if I understand what you're saying this is the high ground and this is the
Mm-hmm.
low ground. So when you're
Mm-hmm.
standing up
Mm-hmm.
here, you can look and see the
Yeah.
whole field.
Yeah, you got a
Even,
straight view.
okay, even though there's a chain link fence,
It's just a chain link fence. You can see
just a
straight
chain
through
link
it.
fence. And even so, when you're standing on this bluff up here,
Oh
you
yeah.
get a good, because it's not that far. It's like 150 meters or something, maybe 200. Well, here, let me use Google Maps. So I'm going, here's 50 meters.
Yeah.
So, and this is that bluff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just ballparking it 50, 50, 50. And then
Okay,
here's where
150 meters. That's
yeah,
good. It kind of see the little bus emblem on the
this,
west end. Yeah, on the west end it's longer because you've got that curve. But I'll give you 150, 175 meters all total
okay,
probably.
okay, okay.
And it's all downhill. It's a slope.
Okay. If someone was to ask you if you had a reliable barley, if you had a trained observers who were standing on this elevation, should they be able to see um, this?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other thing I do want to mention is about the ability of the barley to stand back up after you've walked through it. I was there on the 14th after the date tree group had inspected, and I couldn't even tell where they'd walked. I
Hmm.
couldn't even tell they'd been in the field.
What is
That
now?
barley is so resilient.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm a little. If you could help me with that, so I watched this video that I'm not allowed to reproduce any part of. I'm not allowed to refer to. I'm not allowed to these kind of things. And there was some mention at, let's see, at, well, okay, at 22 minutes and 20 seconds, she mentioned that the field, she was in a different field near, at 20 minutes and 30 seconds, she mentioned that they were going to look at other fields in the area to compare it to. So I don't know why they weren't able to spot your barley. And then at 22 minutes and 20 seconds, she's in a different location. And then she says, she and her partners, or she says that the field had been touched. Is there something, am I missing something? What does it mean that the field has been touched? Do you know what she's referring to or not know?
I have no idea. That field, I can tell you that I've been in that field since the 24th of December. I've seen
Okay.
four-wheelers in there. In fact, someplace I have a video. I almost got run over by a four-wheeler. He come around the corner, flying across the north end of that field, and I was standing there and almost got run over by him. There has been absolutely no other farm equipment in there. There has only been a tractor that was in there the day I harvested all of the barley we just looked at. And
Mm-hmm.
he is the one that's scraping the surface of the earth and made any other tracks in that field. It has not been sprayed with any kind of Roundup, any kind of pesticide, because you have to remember, he's planting that whole thing in trees. He's
Right.
not going to put some kind of hormone on there that's going
No.
to kill yeah, he's
Right.
going to scrape it just like he said.
I think what you're referring to is at 19 minutes and 22 seconds, there was a suggestion that perhaps the field had been sprayed and that was the
Right.
reason that the barley was turning golden brown. And then, but you've been in
That's
that
not
field.
the case.
That's not
No,
the case.
it's not the case.
Okay.
100% it's not.
Okay.
Remember, I visited with the owner of the field.
Yes. No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to make it clear for the viewers.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for that, Becca. I don't know. Do you want to tell us about so you've been inspecting in the Raim area? Let me show the viewers where Raim is. Wait for that toolbar to go away.
While you're doing that, I'll check one more time and make sure those videos didn't get uploaded.
Okay. So just for those, okay, so I'll switch back to map view just for a moment. So what normally happens, just for those of you who are new to the whole Aviv Barley scene, so in the land of Israel, then with Jerusalem, Becca is up here in the north in Poriya Illit, and then, but today, she and her partner Cindy are down here near the Gaza Strip in how should I say, normally, quite often, in an average year, the barley will come ripe first, either down here in the Gaza. You'll hear these names mentioned a lot. You'll hear mentioned Sderot, you'll hear mentioned Raim, you'll hear mentioned Devorah, these kinds of things. There's also some places that you will hear mentioned on the pathway down to the Jordan River Valley, except the other groups will disqualify the fields in the Jordan River Valley for reasons that I can't understand why they would disqualify Jericho, because they use Jericho as one of their proof texts in Joshua 5 verses 10 through 12. So to me, if the barley is valid as a proof text in Joshua 5 verse 10 through 12, how can you disqualify it today to at least one, or if not both, of the Messianic groups call that goat grass because there's too many rocks in the field or something, and I don't understand that. I'm not able to understand that. But there's some other places that you hear about down in the Jordan River Valley that, at least historically, back when I was training with the Karaites back in, I believe it was 2003, they would at least inspect down here back then. I don't know if they're still inspecting down here now or not. But anyway, coming back to Raim, so Becca and her search partner Cindy are in the Raim area, and let me know if you want satellite view or if you want me to give you control of the mouse or whatever your preference.
You can satellite view right there, it'd be okay.
All right.
And so this is one of the places last year. So last year was a huge learning curve for me. And we had pretty much the same anomaly this year. You know, we've had a lot of years without rain, much rain at all, when the Kinneret or the Sea of Galilee was so low that there was talk of desalinating water and using the pipes that they used to use to carry the water to the residents, to carry the desalinated water into the Kinneret. So we've been in just a severe drought. The last 2 years, we've had copious quantities of rain. The way it has fallen has not been very favorable for the barley. So in this area right here that we're looking at I went down to see the anemones, the kalanites as they're called in Hebrew. And actually that's something we need to speak about. That season has passed already in Israel. We went to Raim, we went to Barley, we went to several places. And I had a tourist walk up to me and say, where are the kalanites this year? And I said, well, you know, I said, they should be back over here. And she said, no, there are none. And so the kalanite season is already over this year. Okay, that speaks to us of the progression of a season. That's really important because the Messianic group, the AB Messianic group, that's how I refer to them as the AB Messianic group. One of the things that they look for is 30 days before the barley is Aviv, that the anemones are in bloom. Well, the anemones are finished.
They're gone.
They're finished. There are a few undersized anemones left, but there are not the carpet like you want to see a month ahead of the barley. Okay,
Right.
so back now to that whole field.
Yes.
What I learned the last year as I was standing there, come to see the kalanites, and I'm standing there, I'm looking at yellow barley that's yellow with the root, and it's sick, and I'm suddenly having this epiphany that all of the all of the clumps of barley were elevated, and what was not on a little elevation had almost drowned.
Hmm.
So, and it was the same way with the oats. There were sick oats and there were healthy oats. There were the oats that almost drowned, and there were the healthy oats that had a little elevation.
Mm-hmm.
And as I looked at this and I prayed about it, I realized last year that if I could find a flat field at a elevation or raised, like actually we were given in the north this year, that we would find a beautiful field of barley. I mentioned the north is because I was back in these areas today, and I'm seeing the same phenomenon. There is barley that is hard dough, medium dough, but and my videos are uploading. I'm not at home. The internet here is very slow. I can't share. I regret, but it's very short, and there may be 3 or 4 grains in the head. But they have come out after that first rain, after almost having drowned, and then having 30 days of no rain. And these little guys worked like crazy to push that little head out of the boot. And there's these little barleys right there on that corner. Little, I mean, literally no taller than my hand, with 3 or 4 grains that are almost as hard as a tack, just short of being Aviv, very, very hard dough. And then there's taller barley, again, that came out later, even in bloom, that came out later, with the rains that again came later.
Okay.
So I went to Ryan Park, and I saw the same thing. There is barley that is approaching the stage of dropping there. And there is a later flush of barley that is flowering. And that's exactly what we saw in the north.
Okay.
Exactly what we saw in this field. Do you remember that? There was an early presentation.
Yes.
And then there was a second presentation.
Do you want to give me a second so I can, for the new viewers, so I can help them understand what you're driving it? Thanks.
Sure.
So my understanding is that, so barley, given a hypothetical average year that never exists, with average weather that never takes place, with an average barley plant, which doesn't exist because you have the ancient two-row, they call it, barley, and then you have the modern 6-row, which is a hybridized type of barley. And then, but what will happen is the barley is a living thing. It's a plant, but it's a living thing. So it wants to reproduce itself. So given a normal average year that never exists, it will grow normally in this kind of a thing. And then it reaches a certain point when the plant is mature, and then it will want to push out babies, basically wants to push out seeds. But if you have an extreme year or a difficult year or a drought year or too much rain or these kinds of things, it's going to affect the barley's development cycle. And you can have what, in my understanding, are called different flushes of barley. So what can happen is if the barley is stressed, it can hurry up and want to make babies, even though it may only be this tall. And even though it may not have enough energy to create a full head, the point is that in ancient times, if you're, we've been using the example of Yossi Cohen, he's the head of the Mossad, but we just came up with his name, so it seems like it works. If Yossi Cohen was back there in the days of King David, or the days of Yeshua, or the days of well, later than Joshua, because they were still at war, but or maybe they were growing, of course they were growing barley in those days, but in any event, if you were back in ancient Israel and this is your field and you have all these mouths to feed, we talk about Yossi Cohen and his 12 children, the fact that the barley is only this tall is not going to be a disqualifier for you. You know, if you have a barley and it's ripe and it's this tall and you may only have 3 or 4 grains in the head, you're going to harvest it because that's how, I mean, that's what they did. This is your field. This is what you have to eat. And if you say, I'm not going to eat that barley because it's only this tall and it's only got 3 or 4 grains in the head, that you're not going to do that. You're going to thank Yahweh for his provision, and you're going to bring him the first fruits of what you have so that he will be pleased, so that he will sanctify the field and he will bless the harvest and this kind of a thing. And also, I believe what Becca's talking about is if you have just for example, if you have an early season and a lot of rain and part of the barley starts to come up, and then you have a drought or something happens, and this barley wants to hurry up, even though it's only this tall. But now you start to get normal weather again, and you get what's called a second flush of barley. Then you're going to end up with barley that's this tall, that's ripe, and then you're going to have barley that's this tall or taller coming in later. But you have to be sensitive. You can't disqualify this barley because you want this barley, because you have some idea that you want to wait and see this barley be fully ripe, and so you have to let this barley drop to the ground or something like that. To me that doesn't work, because to me, if my job as a priest is to take care of Yahweh's people, I don't want to be in the position of telling Yossi Cohen, no, sorry, you can't harvest your barley, you can't eat that, because it doesn't meet my hypothetical ideal of the barley that I'd like to see. And this is, again, one of the problems that we have with one of the problems that we in Nazarene Israel have with these other 3 groups is that they're, the Karaites, she doesn't. Well, okay. Anyway, enough said. Back to you.
I like the way
I'm trying not to say. I'm trying not to say the wrong thing here, but because we don't.
No. I understand completely. So you from looking at that field, and I see the short barley with the little bitty pieces of grain on the end of it.
Yes.
Let's talk about Yossi Cohen. He better be on his face repenting. The rains that we had this year were not conducive for growing barley. Even though the regular domestic wheat has huge yellow stripes in it, even it has suffered from the rain.
Okay.
So what we're looking at is, and thank God he's generous. We get to look at the barley when it's beautiful and when it has rain at the right time, and we get to look at the barley, what it would do if things weren't right. And if things weren't right, it would be because we weren't right. So we get to look at both of these scenarios. In the last 2 years, we've had too much rain in too short a period of time, and we're getting to see what happens to the barley under those conditions. But that doesn't mean it's not food.
Right.
So Raim has enough in the park area, that specific location that the sheep and things were in last year, has enough.
This area?
So the park will be, hang on, I think it is to your left on the screen.
Memorial Park?
The park.
Or different
up 232 to your left. Nope, up 232 to your left. Keep going.
I'm out of screen here.
Okay, then let's go up the other way. Shouldn't be out. Are you?
Is this Memorial Park?
No, no. This is the park where everybody goes for the anemones, and to see the barley. Yeah, keep going to see if you can go any further. Yeah, it's up on the road a little ways.
Okay, sure. That's
It's
fine.
about, it's up, I think it's up there where the other 232 is, in that area someplace. It's hard to see from here. Yeah, it's just before Barry, not too far. Which we were in Barry too today. There was not a lot going on in Barry as far as grains to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't been a conducive year, but the point is in Ra'im Park, in that rest area, it's actually a rest area as the way it's presented on the road. There was enough. Cindy and I both said at a dunam approximately of territory that was in that advanced barley, there would have been enough for a omer there today.
Okay.
But we didn't need it because we already had the field in the north.
Yes.
And the field in the north is much, 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 much bigger than that.
Right. So just so for people who are new, a dunam is about 1/4 of an acre.
I'm sorry. Yes, it's about 1/4 of an acre.
You're good.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm not sure what else we need to cover.
Do you want to go back and look at the videos of the field when I was there on the 14th?
That would be great.
Okay.
What should we?
I have them on my
Okay. So I should
laptop.
let you share screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do this. Okay. Good. Ready.
Okay.
So this is we're going to Becca's going to share her videos of what was in that field. And if I could just share one thing before you do that, what would help me a lot, let me share screen. What would help us a lot, and let me wait for this toolbar to recede. What would help us a lot would be if we know where you are in this field.
So we'll go to the red triangle first.
Yes. Okay. All righty. So I will stop sharing so you can share screen.
Sorry. I didn't know I had that volume on. Shoot. Let's see what I do with that now. Where'd it go? Well, we'll start over again. Stop sharing. Okay, here we go. That is down. That will show the screen.
There it is. Good.
Okay.
Now we're in the north section here because we're close to the gas station.
So this is, are you hearing me?
Yes, it's all good.
Okay. This is the north end above the fencing. You can see the fencing.
Yes.
And the day that I was there, you can see that the general color and overall appearance has changed from a, what do you want to say, a vivacious green to a more of a dingy green. You can see that the plants are starting to be a little older.
They're getting ready to turn. And what was the date on this?
This was the 14th.
The 14th. So this is the day after the new moon was sighted.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Because I had, well, this was Sunday. Yes. So I had, by then I had unfortunately seen the video in question. And I'm just showing here that the gate is indeed locked, that no, they could not access that area. That's very, very true. But in my mind, I'm looking at the colors and I'm comparing apples to apples.
Yeah, I'm there. Yes.
Okay, and so I'm wondering in my mind why things appeared to be so mysterious at that point.
I don't understand that either.
Yeah.
I can't say what's going on in anyone else's heart. I can't say what their motivations are, but I have questions as to why it was so hard to find qualifying barley.
Right. And this patch of this barley, by the way, is all the way over on the east side
It's
of
on
the
the
field.
east side of
Yes.
the northern section.
Right. That's the road that they put in right there. But see, look at all this on this east side of the north end, how many brown areas there are. It wasn't just one area.
So you're saying, if I understand what you're saying that this is 3 days after the conflicting video that we're not allowed to reference.
Yes.
It's
And this
only,
is the tractor marks right here from the bulldozer that had been in there.
right.
Very heavy equipment did crush and damage that barley that was not previously damaged.
Right. So I guess when I'm looking at this, what I'm, okay, so yes, barley does ripen fairly quickly.
But we were also just coming out of some really cool weather.
Right. But I
We
mean,
were getting ready.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm looking through the fence and I'm wanting to say, hey, Becca, check that patch. But I mean,
See, you can see to the road. See that truck going by? That's the road below the curve. That's
yes.
going down to Yavniel, and that's a decline. So the view to the end of the
Can you
field
freeze
is where
that?
that truck is.
Can you freeze that? So
Sure.
I'm looking on the far side. So you got two. Well, the freeze is kind of, so you can't see it now with it frozen. But I've got a chain link fence. There you go, right there. And then you can see that chain link fence in the distance. I don't know how many meters that is, but like an additional 50 meters or whatever. But I'm looking through that other fence. I'm seeing yellowish barley on the far side of that other fence. So if, as a trained observer, I mean, that should be, if you're, how do I say this appropriately? As a trained observer, if you're looking, because there was one mention, they said, no, we're going to look for other fields in the area to compare it to. I would look through that fence. If I wanted to compare it to other fields in the area, I would look through that fence and say, well, let's check that barley right over there on the far side of that fence because that looks yellow. Would that be unreasonable I mean, is that a reasonable conclusion to?
Well, if you want to know what I do when I inspect,
That'd be good.
I section the field off.
Okay.
And I travel a path through the entire field from top to bottom.
Yes.
Okay.
You
So
crisscross it, sort of.
yeah.
You
This
grid it.
field, I've inspected this field 3 times. And I start at the north end and I walk down the west and I come back up the center to the gas station on the north end. And I go to the east side and I walked out back down to the south end. So I crisscross that field full length every time I look at it because I want to know what's developing earliest. In my experience, I know that barley fields do not ripen uniformly. And
Right.
I know that there is always early areas.
Right.
And in my world, I don't feel like I have done a good inspection unless if I'm in a field of barley, unless I've walked through it and sectioned it off
Right.
and looked at all of it.
Right. I'm just struggling. I'm like, why wouldn't they? Yeah.
Be careful. Be careful.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I don't understand why that far side wasn't inspected if they were looking for. Let me just say that. I don't understand that.
Yeah. So let's go to the next video.
Okay.
And let's get rid of this. Now this video is just going to show the midsection and how easy it is to get past the fence. So here I am. let's stop it. If I can, stop. So this fence right here, you can barely see the poles.
Yes.
And you see I have an unobstructed vision to the north end of the field.
Now you're on
this
the
area
south side.
right here.
Where are you in the field?
I am, okay. So this back up here behind this fence.
Yes.
You see these little poles?
Yes.
That's the north section.
That's the north section.
That's where we were just at in the video. So this is west. That's exactly right.
You're on the west side of the fenced section. Okay, that's what I thought.
That's right. So I'm walking southward.
So what you're showing us is how easy it is to walk around that.
To pass around that, yeah,
fence.
it's very easy to pass around that.
It's not restricted.
Back here, it's just a plowed field. There's no obstruction. Very easy. Of course, I'm looking at his trees, and I'm upset because I know we're going to be losing this field.
Right.
And indeed, he has ran this fence all the way down to the road now. It goes all the way down to the road.
Okay.
But if I ask him in there, if I ask him if there was any barley left and I saw him there, he would let me in. He's a very nice man. So let's go to the next one.
Okay, but what if you could?
I'm so sorry.
You're okay. But
let me go back.
What I'm getting out of this, to the point is, it's very easy to walk around that fence. There's just no obstruction. If you're standing on the north side of that fenced area and you're looking through the south side, and you're saying
you get a clear view. Look, that's what I'm doing right there. I'm looking north. Right.
And then as it runs, then you turn and you show the south edge, and you just keep walking around, and there it is. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, at a distance, the chain link even disappears, and if you go look, you can't even hardly see where the poles are on the north end now.
Right.
Okay, so now we'll go to the other one.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, this is the south end. Okay, so let me back it up just a little bit. And so what I'm just looking at here are these brown areas. I'm talking about how golden this barley is becoming.
Yes. Now this is on the south side of the fence.
Yes.
And when you're at the gas station, when you're up on that little promontory there, are you able, when you look out over the field, even with that fence in there, are you able to tell that the south end is more advanced, or not really?
There is some hilled up stones and things like that they had at some point in time bulldozed out of this field to make it level and to make it less stony.
Oh, okay.
From the gas station, as you enter the field, if you enter from the gas station, which most people do because you don't want to park on the side of the road, right?
Right.
As soon as you enter the field, coming out of that gas station parking lot, yes, you have a bird's eye view of the whole field.
Okay. Okay.
Without any issues.
Okay. Is it possible to, is it easy to tell, or not really easy to tell?
No, it's really easy to tell. It's a big field. It's very easy to tell how big it is. Okay.
So what I'm asking, just to be, crystal clear. So when you're parked at the gas station and you're either standing on the promontory or you're coming down, you have a bird's eye view of the field. Can you tell that the north end of the field is greener and the south end is more golden, or is it not really?
I don't know if I've ever stopped to notice that.
Good to know.
I can't answer that question, but the last time that in this video series here, both ends, I mean, the north end had some very, very brown areas on the east side, and more than one.
Okay.
We saw them in the video from the north side. There were several places on that east end of the north section of the field that were becoming golden.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so, okay, this is
Thank
the
you.
new growth we were talking about, the second flush,
Yes.
okay? But I'm checking some of this that's more mature, and you can see that it's just coming apart very easily.
Yes.
And so what I'm doing now is I'm just walking around and showing these sections. You can see it's getting golden here.
And this is first flush that's getting golden?
Yes, this is the first flush. Uh-huh.
And it's the
And if
2-row
you look,
heirloom. Okay.
if you look right here, can you see these little sticking up? There's let me see if I can take it backwards for you. All right. You see these little, there you can see some new growth in there too, but what is laid over this lighter stuff is the older growth
Yes.
from the first flush.
Yes. And this is the south end.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. So this is what the other team didn't see.
That's right.
Okay.
Hang on, I want to turn that off. All right, so we're just going to go here, and I'm just showing all how brown it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. When we were in there cutting the barley the last day, a full 1/3 of this could have been harvested by now.
Yeah. And we're still ahead of the wave sheaf.
Yes, yes. Look at
Right.
how brown this is here.
Right. And there's no way that this would make it another month.
Oh, no, no, no. This wouldn't have been there. It would be shattering by Friday anyway. It'd be shattering.
Right. So for the people that are new, so that what that means is that the,
Did you see how white that was?
yes.
You see that?
Yes. So for the people that are new, what this means is that the Passover and the wave sheaf has to take place this month, because you can't wait another month, because this barley, there's no possible way that this barley is going to stay.
This barley right here will be gone.
Right.
There will be the new barley.
Right.
Next month, but you will have lost
Right. Well,
a lot of barley. I mean, a lot of barley.
Right. And the point that we're trying to make is that in ancient times, Yossi Cohen and his 12 children need every grain in order to feed mouths, or to sell, or whatever they do with it. So that's, yeah.
Well, let's just talk about that a second. So most people don't even understand that ancient Israel was, they subsided on grains the way that Asia does rice.
Yes.
We've only got a very small grain window, and
Yes.
the rest of the time those grains was the stored food that
Yes.
they lived by.
Yes.
So you could not afford to allow any of this to waste.
Waste not, want not.
That's right. That's right. Because by Shavuot, this whole land is going to be brown again.
Yes.
And it's going to be finished until November, not November, the 11th month, the 11th biblical month next year. This year it's going to be finished till the end of the 10th biblical month, the 11th biblical month, and then we're going to begin to see a little green again. So
Yes.
all of this from Shavuot to when that happens again, they're eating the grains they harvested.
Yes. And if you don't harvest the grains, you're not going to eat.
That's right.
Or you're not going to have anything to sell, or whatever. But this is what Elohim gives you, so you have to make the most of it.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. That's some of the newer barley I'm showing that's come up within the older barley. And we talked about this in the video we had to take down. If we had harvested the barley when I did the video and I said enough for an omer, this new barley that's standing straight up and has no meat in it, it would not have been in the way because it was not out of the boot yet. Not only that, but a lot of this barley.
Would you say it again, please? Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay.
Would you say it again?
That's okay. If the newer barley, if we would have harvested at the time that I did the video enough for a wave sheaf.
Enough for an omer, or that was.
I'm sorry, an over, enough for an over, yes.
On the 6th, yes.
If we would have harvested that barley at that point,
right,
then the new growth would not have been in the way.
Right.
Now the new growth is in the way.
Yes. So now it's hard to harvest the first flush because the second flush is growing up and is getting in the way. The green stuff is getting in the way of harvesting the earlier stuff. Yes.
That's right.
Okay. Is it normal for like a wild field in ancient Israel, like just first century times or King David's time, because they didn't have 6-row? Well, I don't know if they didn't. I'm not sure when 6-row came into being.
I'm not either.
Okay.
I'm not either.
So we'll leave that out.
Yeah, but I saw 4-row barley and rayim in the park today.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that because it's not known. Okay.
It's not known. So you can see the further east we get, look at this over here. As I've always told you, it ripens in the east first.
Yep.
And you can see how just golden that is now. And that was on the 14th.
Right. So this is what the other team missed, basically.
Yes.
All this.
Yes.
All this on the south end. And it's easy to access, it's easy to get to, it's easy to see that it's there.
Well, and that's really about it. I think I pretty much ended there, but you can still see sprinkled throughout that whole field is that early barley that was ready on this, on the 5th or 6th or whatever it was.
Yes. So,
and then the new standing up straight stuff that has no meat in the head, and that's why it's standing up like a soldier.
Right. Because there's nothing weighting it. There's nothing weighting the head over.
That's right. So that's all new.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate your thoroughness. I appreciate that you, well, again, we talked about this in the video that we had to take down, but the history of that field just sort of seems miraculous. We've had some extreme weather going on, some very, very unusual weather, anomalous weather. And then, of course, with all the lockdowns and everything, and people aren't able to travel around travel is difficult. And here Elohim just gives a field of early ripening barley very close to his witness, I suppose.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was very miraculous. It really was a miracle. And not only that, but if Cindy wasn't asleep, she would tell you we have not seen another field as beautiful as this field. It's just an amazing field. And I think that our inspector from Devorah's date tree even says the same thing, what a beautiful field it is. Because it is, it's just, I've never seen another field like this.
They do, yes. She does mention how beautiful the field it is. I don't have a time marker, but.
Yeah. Yeah, so in closing, I just want to say that I think that our biggest obstacle is the struggle to oh boy, let me pick my words very carefully. I think our biggest obstacle is the struggle to have the most influence in how we see the barley needs to be when it's ready to be harvest from the field. That's our biggest struggle. And that's where the friction lies, is because
Oh, it's frozen. So let me see if until she's traveling. She's got a Wi-Fi signal. I think what she's trying to say, if I hope her signal will come back. But the things that I see is that there's a question. Basically, there's 4 questions. Are you back now?
I think it's okay.
Good.
Go
Okay.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, the things that I've been trying to analyze this thing and what's really going on and how do we get to unity and how can we help bring the different Barley teams to search together if that's possible. It may not be possible because of some of the, well, we'll leave that out. But I see 4 things. I see definition of what is Aviv barley, because we've got, again, the 4 groups, we've got different definitions. So we agree that medium dough, not soft, but medium dough is Aviv because it's still green, still tender, still young, yet it's parchable, yet it's grindable into flour, yet it's viable as seed. So medium dough. The other 3 groups are looking at a basically almost within a day or 2 of combine ripe, I would call it. They might not call it, but to me, that's what it looks like. Then the second question is, how much of it do you need? So there's a question, are we looking at just an omer, or do you need harvestable fields? So Devorah's Date Tree has a publication. I'm sure it's copyrighted also, but she's got a publication about harvestable. You need to be able to bring in the harvest, is because they place a lot of emphasis on Joshua chapter 5 verses 10 through 12. So because because the fields were harvestable that year, they make a doctrine out of it that they must be harvestable every year. And if you do that, to me, it pushes everything a month later, because to me, fields like that in Joshua 5, that's the end of the time window, not the beginning of the time window. So there's so what is Aviv? How much do you need? When do you need it? So who, what, when, where, why, how, right? So what is Aviv? How much do you need? When do you need it? So again, I believe we're in agreement that it's needed by the day of the wave sheaf offering, or 3 days before, could be, if it's cut away from Jerusalem and then bringing it to Jerusalem. You want to give yourself travel time. And then I'm not sure the Karaite position. In the past, they have had it to where you need to have harvestable fields of Aviv before they will even declare the new moon of the Aviv, even though you don't need the wave sheaf until 15 to 21 days later. So that's
not only are they shifting it,
not only are they shifting it a month back, but they're shifting it an additional 15 to 21 days beyond that to the difference between the moon and the wave sheaf. And then there's a 4th question regarding the condition of the field. And then some of the Messianic groups, and I'm not sure, but I think the Karaites also, I'm not 100%, or Devorah's group, but they talk about, the Messianic groups talk about goat grass. And then, so if there's rocks in the field, like around Jericho, they will disqualify Jericho, even though they use Jericho as a proof text in Joshua 5 verses 10 through 12, which I'm not able to understand that. So what is Aviv? How much do you need it? When do you need it? Condition of the field. To me, Aviv has to be still tender, young, and green, like Strong says, yet it has to be parchable, grindable into flour, and also viable as seed, based on Yeshua's witness. How much do you need? You need a sheaf. You need an omer. And then we could talk about that definition, but you don't need a whole field of it, or you don't need all of it. You don't need to bring in the main harvest of Israel. You just need to bring a sheaf, because the purpose, well, we talk about the theology too, the purpose is not to bring in the harvest and then bring a sheaf of that harvest to the priest, like the Karaite doctrine. The purpose is to bring the first sheaf which then sanctifies the rest of the harvest, which
That's right.
matches Yeshua's pattern, because Yeshua is our wave sheaf. We know that from Corinthians. And then that sanctified the rest of, so then that sanctified the rest of the harvest. And then you have the blessings in Acts chapter 2. You have those who were raised from the graves in the first century. When do you need it? I don't know if every Karaite believes the same. I don't know if they still believe this, but they believe you need the Aviv at the new moon. And then I believe and then perhaps the two Messianic groups, I believe that you need it at the day of the wave sheaf, because that's the whole purpose. And then the condition of the field, the other three groups are saying basically they're looking at a manicured domestic, like a combine ready field.
Yes.
So they're disqualifying something that would be like an ancient sickle field. Whereas I believe you and I were both, we're fine with, I mean, we're not looking at combine harvest, we're looking at sickle harvest, which is a very different thing. And also this, just to mention it, I think we mentioned this in the last video, but just to mention it again, there's not, when we look at passages like Ruth, maybe you could talk more about this, but we talk about passages like Ruth, the way that the Devorah's date tree mentions it. So they want, like, just for example, in Joshua 5 verses 10 through 12, I guess I could, anyway, Joshua 5 verses 10 through 12. So they celebrated the Passover on the Sabbath, and then they had the wave sheaf offering the very next day. So, and then they ate of the produce of the land that year, and then the manna stopped. And so they're saying, well, you've got to have that condition every year. And that,
right.
where was I? The problem is that can work if the whole nation of Israel is already right there together in Jericho, because there's no travel time involved. But the problem is if you're in Raim, or if you're up in the Galilee, or especially if you're way up in Dan, or if you're way down in the Negev, that causes a real, because you could travel for 4 or 5 days. And if you have to walk for 4 or 5 days to get up to Jerusalem, and then now you have to go back home to harvest your barley, and then now you have to come back up and be there 7 days later for the 7th day of unleavened bread. You've spent your whole day, and it takes, I don't know, 2-3 weeks to bring in your harvest. How is that possible?
It does. If I'm looking at this, at the way that the fields have presented themselves from an ancient perspective, for me, it's a perfect scenario to see an early flush of barley, bring in that earliest wave sheaf. The men have time to travel to Jerusalem, keep the week of unleavened, get back to their fields in plenty of time for that second flush to be ready.
Right. And then they have 7 weeks to bring it in, and then they bring up to the first fruits up to Pentecost.
Right. That's right. And so let's go on that whole line a little bit further. Is we've had 18 years of being an abject drought. I mean, so low that they were finding treasures in the Kinneret because the shores were uncovered. I mean, serious drought. Serious drought. It was so low that they were afraid that the marine life couldn't be supported, because when it gets to a certain point, the salts and the minerals are so concentrated that it becomes salty. So that's why that they were talking about desalinating water and pumping it back in there. So that's not what we've had. All of our records and all of our understanding, recorded understanding, have come from this time we were in severe drought. And now that barley doesn't come in 2 flushes when we're in severe drought.
Okay, that's where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So these last 2 years with this abundant rain,
yes,
we've had 2 flushes of barley.
Yes. Now, Elohim promises that he's going to return the rain in the end times. So, that was my only question was, is Yossi Cohen really going to be on his face because he's got more rain, or is he going to be thanking and praising Elohim? because he's got more rain? I guess
It
what he meant
depends on
maybe.
how it falls. Because I
Okay.
still say that the rain, the way it fell, even though we're getting plenty of it, is not conducive for growing beautiful grains.
Okay.
You know, the Bible talks about the gentle rains, and it talks about, you know, sending the gentle rains first. It's you farmed. It's not rocket science. If we get heavy rains when the earth is hard, the earth can't drink it. It just runs
Right.
off.
It rolls off. Yes.
That's right. If we get gentle rains first that prepare the earth, then it can drink the rain. We
Okay.
have had heavy rains in the beginning, and so there's been a lot of runoff.
Okay.
And then we had it turn off. And so the barley struggled up out of the earth and got busy and put out a head. And then we had, after 30 days, then we had some more rains. But you're talking about 30-day stretches without rain.
Very stressful conditions for the
Very
barley.
stressful conditions. That we have 2 waves of barley is not surprising. So we're not getting, my whole point in saying that is this is what we've been presented and this is what we deal with, but
Yes.
it's not ideal conditions yet.
Okay. 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 So more rain is a good thing, but the condition of the rain is also very important. To get a gentle
Very
rain
important.
first to prepare the ground, to open it up so it can drink in that rain.
And then not wait 30 days for the next rainfall.
Right.
You know, and especially when it got as warm as it did, you know, high 70s. That was a major stressor on that barley. So that's what I'm saying. That still was not the type of, if we were ancient Israel and if we were living in right covenant and we were still the apple of Elohim's eye, that's not the kind of rain I would be expecting to see on the land.
Yossi Cohen will be asking, okay, Father, what's going on? Because, you know, appreciate the rain, but what are we doing? What am I doing wrong? That kind of a thing.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. But like you said, we deal with what we're presented, and this is what we're presented for the last 2 years, and the whole understanding of having to have food in the dry season. You're not going to let those grains pass by.
You know, I just wonder what Yossi Cohen and his friends would say if the priesthood in that day said, no, you can't harvest that grain. And he's like looking at his children, you know, like, I can't feed them.
Yes.
You know, I imagine that kind of a conversation.
Yes.
You know, and they say, well, no, you can't harvest it because, you know, Joshua 5, or for them to, for someone to say, no, go ahead and harvest it and lay it to one side, but we're not going to start the Omer count.
Right.
Even though Deuteronomy 16 and verse 9 says so. So to me, it means you have to cut when the very first thing comes ripe, you have to cut it.
That's right.
What else?
That's right. Yeah. Whereas in Romans, it talks about if the first fruits are holy, the rest is holy.
Amen. Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
Yeah. So it's the first fruit that we get the blessing for the rest.
Amen. Just like Yeshua is our blessing. So Yeshua was our first fruits, and he's the blessing.
That's right. Yeah. 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 So I don't know if we solved much tonight, but I'm committed to the fact that we're in great shape, that there's no obstacles to have Passover this coming weekend. None at all.
To the way I'm looking at it, we have to have Passover because the barley that you have the video witnesses of south of the fence, and even some of it, well, for definitely south of the fence, it can't wait another month.
No.
And so, I mean, I do not want to tell Yossi Cohen and his 12 children, you've got to starve to death, or you can't pay your bills, you're going to get sold into slavery. I don't want that on my head. So I think this is a thing. It's very important for people who are doing barley inspection that they need to, well, I want to be careful what I say and how I say it.
Be careful. be
I
here.
think so, yes. So I think we did solve our earlier problem. I think we have successfully shown that there was ample well, if there hadn't been bulldozer action, if this had been ancient times with Yossi Cohen in the 1st century or King David's time, I think we have shown that there was ample, or there would have been ample barley to present the wave
Absolutely.
sheaf offering.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Yeah. Because we're still a few days out. I mean, we're still a
right,
few days out even now.
right, and these videos are from the 14th.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So I think the other witnesses saying that, so just for the benefit of the people who are following Nazarene Israel's establishment of the calendar, I understand that it seems difficult because we've got 3 other witnesses, 1 Karaite and 2 Messianic, that are saying no Aviv, no barley, no Passover this month. But I mean, to me, the video witnesses that you have presented uh, to me indicate that if this was ancient times and we were doing things in the way that they were done in the 1st century, in Yeshua's time, Passover would be this month. And
Yeah.
if people would say, you can't hold Passover this month because it's still too cold, we would just point, I can't remember the verse, chapter and verse, but when Kepha or Peter was following Yeshua, he warmed himself by the fire because it
Luke
was
22. I don't
yeah,
remember. Luke. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
remember, but yeah, there's in 3 of the Gospels, not just 1. It's in 3.
right. Well, thank you very much, Becca. I appreciate your
You're
time.
welcome.
Thank you for taking the time. I look forward to seeing your next video when it comes out, with when you get everything uploaded and arranged. And the video that we saw where we had the looking through the fences at 3:25, I wrote the minute mark down.
Okay.
Is that on your Facebook page?
No, I had not published those. I
Okay.
remember I had not published those.
Okay. Is there any way I can get a screenshot of 3:25 on that particular
Sure.
video? Great. Thank
Sure.
you. And then
Yeah.
we'll try to. Well, I can probably take it from, if you could send me a screenshot.
Yeah, I'll
3:25.
send you a screenshot. No problem. No
Great.
problem.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We pray.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
Father, I just thank you so much for Becca and Cindy and for their witness and for their desire to witness of your witness, Father, because you are the one providing your witness of when the year is supposed to begin. You are the one providing the barley. You are the one providing all these things so that we know when to start your year. And Father, I just thank you for their faithfulness. I thank you for their time. I thank you that they are trying to put your witness above any other personal agendas or personal, because no scripture is of any private interpretation, Father. And I thank you that she is open and she's honest and she's willing to answer questions. I thank you that she's willing to correspond and take of her time to share the things that she's learned with your people. And Father, I ask you please to bless them and safeguard them and give them safe journey and safe passage on this trip. Father, you know that Becca, that they have to move because of their housing situation. Father, I ask you please to continue to provide for them and give them an even better place to live. Father, we thank you for all these wonderful things, and thank you for showing us when your calendar year begins. Thank you very much, Father. We ask these things in Yeshua's name, that we might become better servants for Yeshua, our Messiah and King. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for for letting me show the field. I appreciate that greatly.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Works for us too.
Okay, great. All
Okay.
right. Well, it's late here, so I think I'm going to go hit the hay, as they
Amen.
say.
What
Okay.
time is it there?
I just took my glasses off. Let me
Oh,
see.
it's all right.
21, almost 30.
21:30, 9:30.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
But we started early this morning before the sun was up, so it's been a
Yeah.
little bit of a day. Yeah.
And you're inspecting again tomorrow? And then going home?
Yeah, what I'm actually doing is looking for new areas more than inspecting.
Ah,
I
okay.
am inspecting. I did go back to those 2 Rahim areas specifically because they were early and I knew they were early. But what I'm basically doing is looking as well for new areas because that Father's put that in my heart that, we've overlooked some areas that need to be reconsidered because we had an established pattern. And yeah.
Well, like you pointed out, I mean, the field that was given to you this year, that was anomalous, and it's not going
Nobody's
to be
ever
there.
looked at that field before, ever.
Right. Well, and it's not going to be there next year either.
No, it's not. And I was telling Cindy about that. I said, the face of the earth changes every year, and you've got to just go see what it is. This year, there's an awful lot of oats down in this area, a tremendous amount of short spent oats. But every year it's different, and you've got to go look, and you never know when something that was planted is no longer planted. Or even this year, I've seen some things that are planted that were not planted before. So it's just obligatory that you've always got to be looking around and be willing to explore new areas because things change so constantly.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good
God bless
night.
you both. Good night.
God bless you.
Shalom.
Bye-bye.
God bless.